everyone. Welcome. It is Monday, September 20th, 2021, and I'm back in Atlanta, Georgia. This past weekend, went up to the Smoky Mountains in eastern Tennessee. I know they also cover North Carolina. Had actually crossed through North Carolina to get to Tennessee and got to enjoy my daughter's wedding along with many of her friends and her family. So it was a wonderful time, enjoyed a lot of highlights. In fact, the whole weekend was just wonderful. So fun when you're around people that are positive, that are uplifting, that like to laugh and have fun, and nobody takes an offense, nobody tries to control. Just a wonderful time. And so I'm going to share a little bit of some of the highlights with you guys. So welcome to all of you as you start to join and pop on here. So one of the highlights I'll share is as I'm driving into the Smoky National Park on the south side from North Carolina, coming up from Atlanta, I noticed there was a bunch of cars that were parked, and every time you see a bunch of cars parked, you always understand that, okay, there's probably a sighting of an animal. Could be an elk, could be a bear. In this case, it was an elk that had a lot of antlers, a lot of, I guess you call them points, with a number of antler pointed things that come from their head. And it was lightly raining at that point in time, but there's, I would guess, as far as how many points that were on this elk, I think it was around, I don't know, 26 or something like that. A lot. So anyways, and then that was on a Thursday, went up on a Thursday. And then on Friday morning, get up to have coffee. And then all of a sudden people start yelling, there's a bear right outside the cabin that all, I don't know, 25 or 30 of us are staying at. And so I run upstairs and run outside, and I see the black bear. It's a black bear, not a grizzly bear, which are more nice, I guess, than grizzlies. And I saw the bear actually start to walk behind this car. So I had, unfortunately, I had bare feet on. So I walked out on these little pebbles that they had and got closer to the bear in order to get a good picture of it. And then the bear turned back where it actually came out into the open, and it was, I don't know, it was probably a good 25, 30 feet away from me, safe distance, and took a picture of it as it was just walking all calmly. So that was a highlight. That was kind of cool to see. And then went on a hike after that in the Smoky Mountains. We were only like, I don't know, something like 2/10 of a mile from the Smoky Mountains. So you have to go into the park and you're able to walk around and hike. Got to eat at this place called the Apple Barn in Pigeon Forge. They had a whole bunch of people that were in Pigeon Forge, and also we didn't go to Gatlinburg. And then on Friday afternoon, or I think it was around 5 o'clock, is when we started the wedding. Got to walk my daughter basically down the aisle, and wasn't sure how I was going to react. And my daughter started to tear up, and it was just a very special time because I'd always been thinking about the moment that someday I would walk down the aisle and give my daughter away. And I know that her fiance, has done nothing but love her in a way that anyone would be thankful and grateful to be loved by. So it's just neat to see that coming together, and the backdrop was just beautiful, the mountains and the blue skies and also some clouds. And then after that, I got to dance with my daughter, took some pictures, and they had brisket and chicken to eat. So it was very special, and had a great time, had a lot of fun. And then on Saturday, ended up going into Pigeon Forge and eating at this Blue Moose Burgers and Wings place. And they had on the Purdue game. Purdue was playing Notre Dame, so that was fun. Got to have a late lunch with my daughter and her husband. And in fact, it was neat. After we got done eating, her husband went to go, I think, to the bathroom or get the car or something like that. Well, then she was walking away, and I said, hey, I go, where's your husband at? And she looked back at me and just smiled. because she's been, waiting to have that spoken, out loud that, where's your husband? And you're his wife. So anyway, it was very neat to see all of that. And then, what was it? Yeah, Saturday we ended up going hiking again for a long time. And then Sunday, yesterday, we all packed up and left, and everything was done in order. Everyone cleaned, and it was just a great sending off as she and her husband drove back to the Indianapolis area, and then I drove back down to Atlanta. So anyway, a lot of fun when you have weddings and people get along with each other and love each other. So wonderful time. All right, the upcoming Breakthrough Tour continues for 2021. I'm going to be this Saturday in Greenville, South Carolina at the Faith Family Church, and then October 17th in Port Richey, Florida at the DTM Church, October 31st in Houston, Texas at Cool Church, and then November 5th and 6th in Waco, Texas at Walking in Freedom. All right, topic of the day is you are more beautiful for being broken. And how many people do you know, including ourselves, yourself, who have been hurt, who have been wounded growing up, who have had, a father or a mother who has spoken harshly to them, or not spoken at all, or never told them that they loved them, or had a love that was conditional, or blamed them. And, verbal and emotional abuse is very, very, very common to children from their either father or mother or both, if the father and mother have gone through things themselves, which they normally have. And then there can also be physical abuse. There could be sexual abuse, could be from parents, could be from other people. So again, that's what our ministry focuses on, is helping people to truly forgive those who have hurt them. And those who are hurt the worst oftentimes have the worst, the biggest challenge of forgiving. And they oftentimes hurt people the worst. If you're married to someone and that person has been hurt or abused greatly, then oftentimes there's a very strong level of pride that is in them that causes them to blame you or blame other people and not take responsibility for their own behavior. And they won't get delivered from the demonic spirits that are tormenting them. They will not get healed from that. So anyway, it was interesting this weekend that I just really sensed to talk about today, about how when we are broken, that when we go through the healing process, that there's oftentimes just a beautiful thing that happens as we change from being angry and hateful and blaming and prideful into a real Christian, a true Christian who loves people, who can forgive people. And what I learned over the weekend, I didn't know this ever existed, but there's a word that represents this. It's a Japanese word called kintsukuroi, and it means golden mend. And it's the Japanese art of mending broken pottery using lacquer rosin laced with gold or silver. And interestingly, gold and silver, if you look it up symbolically in the Bible, gold symbolizes purity, great value or worth, and the glory of God, while silver means redemption. And I'm going to read this. Actually, I found this article. It's short, but it's to the point, written by a guy named Travis Johnson. And it says, kintsukuroi, golden mend, is the Japanese art of mending broken pottery using lacquer rosin laced with gold or silver. As well as a form of repair, kintsukuroi has a deeper philosophical significance. The mended flaws become part of the object's design. And more people believe the pottery to be even more beautiful, having gone through the process of being broken and then repaired. And I was thinking about, just think symbolically, this symbolizes everyone in the world. We've all been hurt, we've all been wounded. Those who have done the worst mean things, evil things, have oftentimes been the worst hurt. And they don't get healed, they don't get delivered from their demons, and then they come and manifest on those that they're married to, they manifest on their own children, They hurt their own people. Hello to Tina Powers. Hello to Tammy Morrison. Hello to Anna Denny. Hello to Joanna Zook. Tina Kirkpatrick on Facebook. And so symbolically, when we're talking about how you're more beautiful for being broken, most people don't want to be hurt when they're growing up. They want to have a father or a mother that speaks down to them, that's negative, that mocks them, that laughs at them, that treats them badly. They don't want to have of course, a spouse that controls them, manipulates them, But when I started coming into this ministry, I had to go through some abuse, I'll call it, really was some abuse that was not fun to go through. But the Lord said that ultimately from that, when I had come through all of that, that He would use me in a ministry that would help people around the world that would be also broken and hurt, and help them to be healed and delivered. That I would deal with people that were in family situations that were messes, children that were hurt by their parents that didn't like their parents, and their own parents that were hurt by their parents, and so forth and so on. So the correlation of all of this understanding really is what developed the ministry and my desire to do this. I didn't want to do any ministry when I was growing up. Had no desires at all until would have been 2009. At that point, I started hearing the Lord. He started speaking to me. I heard Him in my thoughts, basically, nothing audibly, but it was like, oh my gosh. And I went through some things experientially. So it taught me a lot of things. But ultimately, as I'm going through a lot of abuse and so forth, I knew that it was for God's purpose, for a greater purpose, for helping millions of people around the world to get set free and delivered. So I'm like, well, Lord, I will do anything and everything, no matter how much. And there was a lot of sacrifice that I had to go through. I willingly had to lay down my life to help other people. It wasn't, when you're a child, you have no choice. If you have a father and mother that speaks to you harshly, that does things to hurt you. But as you get an adult, then at that point you have a choice. Do I want to stay in like a toxic marriage where there's abuse going on, or do I want to say, I'm done, this is ridiculous? So in many cases, the Lord will have you in a situation where you are being emotionally abused. There could be physical and sexual abuse. That's not fun to go through, absolutely not. And you may go through it for a season before the purpose of what you're going through that becomes apparent to you, where you can actually help other people. Obviously, if you're married to a person that refuses to get healed and delivered, and you stay in that toxic marriage, then the chances of you being able to help other people get healed and delivered go way down, because the demons in them, their desires is to stop you from doing what God's calling is on you. So let me go through this again. I'm going to read what this thing called kintsukuroi, I think that's how you pronounce it. Golden mend is the Japanese art of mending broken pottery using lacquer rosin laced with gold or silver. As well as a form of repair, kintsukuroi has a deeper philosophical significance. The mended flaws become part of the object's design. And some people believe that the pottery to be even more beautiful, having gone through the process of being broken and then repaired. So there's so many people that are in the church that are broken, and some of them are being repaired, but a large majority are not, because the messages from the pulpit are saying you can't have demons. You're a Christian. You ask Jesus into your heart. And yet they have demons. They're struggling. They're hearing demonic voices in their head. And so they try to go and take medication, go to doctors to try to get the demons delivered. They don't know that they have demons. And it never works. It doesn't get to the spiritual root. So, of course, inner healing and deliverance does that. And that's why we've seen tremendous results with people before and after. Okay, let me go on. Through kintsukuroi, the cracks and seams are merely a symbol of an event that happened in the life of the object, rather than the cause of its destruction. I'm going to read that again. The cracks and seams are merely a symbol of an event that happened in the life of the object rather than the cause of its destruction. So you think about how many events have you gone through in your life that were painful, that caused a crack, in your soul. If you had a father or a mother or some sexual thing that was shown to you or done to you, it's an event. Now, some of these events, you may have lots of these events. Therefore, you may have lots of cracks in your soul that need to be fixed, need to be healed. And once it's healed from that brokenness, then it's a beautiful thing. You have a testimony at that point to share. So, like pots, bowls, cups, and plates, we endure our own bumps and scrapes. Soul wounds. We experience drops from a dizzying height and unexpected knocks. Sometimes we experience things that plant the seeds of shame, rejection, betrayal, abandonment, failure. How many times have we gone through things in our life where we have been wounded in our soul from people, from our father, from our mother, from sexual violations that happened to us? We get betrayed, we get abandoned, we feel rejected, we get talked down to, we get shamed, we feel like we're a failure. So we try to avoid these experiences that leave us vulnerable to these feelings as much as possible, lest the people around us see the evidence of just how imperfect and flawed and not good enough we really are. So how many people do you know that, you think about the Jezebel spirit, people that struggle with that have been wounded, have been hurt. They're not being honest with their behavior. They want to blame everyone else. They want to act like they're a victim to get people to feel sorry for them, but they don't get delivered. And then they can go from place to place, go from church to church, go from ministry to ministry, go from husband and wife to husband and wife. And if they don't get healed and delivered from those past wounds, they're still broken, they're going to continue to manifest on people. And they don't want people to see that they're imperfect. When a person gets healed and delivered, it's a beautiful thing. Then they can share the truth and say, yeah, I used to do this. I used to do this behavior and that behavior. I don't do it anymore. I'm not that person anymore. I've been healed from that. It's a beautiful thing. All right, so in other words, when we go through all these wounds, then we want to stay hidden sometimes in the cupboard right behind the best silver because we don't want to get a chip, a crack, or a complete break. Our experiences don't define us, but they do influence us. We can decide to hide or we can decide to embrace these experiences that have shaped us in some small way, the experiences to which we've applied our own special coating of gold-laced rosin. The Lord will actually do all that. So when we choose to be honest with our behavior and say, you know what, I'm making decisions that aren't really good, or I'm causing other people pain. I have a lot of people that will come to the ministry and say, oh my gosh, I know that I have the demonic spirits of Jezebel and Leviathan. I know that I trigger, and they're truly going to get healed because they're going to continue to pursue it because they're willing to be honest. And then once they do get healed, when they forgive people for hurting them, commanding their demons to go to the pit, then the Lord comes in, the Holy Spirit, He heals all that, and now they can be honest and share the truth and say, yeah, I used to behave like this really badly, but no longer. I have changed. I have been healed. It's a wonderful thing. And the Lord uses oftentimes, symbolically gold and silver to restore us. Again, silver represents redemption and gold represents purity, great value or worth, and the glory of God. So we can decide, to cover things up, to lie, to act like everything's fine, to not want to be honest with things that have happened to us in the past or with the things we've done in the present. And then you won't get healed, you won't get delivered, and you'll continue to be a broken vessel. But when we do get healed and delivered, then it's a beautiful thing, because you are more beautiful than for being broken than had you not gone through anything whatsoever. And it's a wonderful change in people's lives. So I'm going to read this. James 1:2-8 says, my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith, with no doubting. For he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For let not that man suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. So count it all joy if you've gone through wounds and hurts and pain in your past. Count it all joy. Continue to pursue being healed. When you're healed from those wounds, you don't trigger anymore. You don't get angry. You're not violent. You don't give people the silent treatment. You can talk things through. And the things that people then will do to you today when you're healed don't set you off anymore, don't get you angry anymore. So there's a whole lot of people in the church who have not been healed from their wounds. They're cracked, they're broken. Some of them are doing ministry. Some of them have not been healed and delivered yet. So they're going to be hurting people that are already hurt. And that really hurts when you have a pastor, you have a person that calls themselves a prophet or a prophetess that will give you words or will mentor you, and they're not healed yet. So they're going to give you advice that's going to be harsh. They're not going to be loving. They're not going to be kind. They're going to be judgmental, going to be religious. So we need people that are going to get healed, that are going to pursue deliverance. And when they have done that, then they're no longer going to look at themselves as a victim. There's a lot of people that are like, oh my gosh, I've gone through all these bad things, and they love to share that every single time. But then they stay in that victim mode, and they want you to feel sorry for them and not to get healed and not to get delivered. And then they still are hearing demonic voices. They're going to trigger on you, hurting people, hurt people. They're going to say things and do things that are harsh and mean. And some of them, if they're in leadership positions within a church or a ministry, will say things that are not correct, and they will hurt people. And so we have to pursue forgiveness of those who have hurt us. And how do you do that? Well, you ask Jesus, Lord, show me these people from your perspective. Let me see why my father did this, or my mother did this, or my whatever step parent, why the next door neighbor sexually touched me. Why did these things happen? Well, they've been hurt. The Lord will show you that and speak to you. They've all been hurt. They've been wounded. They've not been delivered from their demons. And that's why they manifested on you. So you can separate out the person from the demonic spirits, and you can choose to forgive the person, just like Jesus did. Father, forgive them. They know not what they did. And it's interesting too, symbolically, when you think about olives, that oftentimes the oil is going to be more valuable than the olive. The olive has to go through a crushing to get the oil to come out of it. So there's many of us that have gone through the crushing, and there is potential fruit from that. It's even more valuable. But we have to forgive those who hurt us. We can't stay in the mode where we constantly talk about all the people that have hurt us in the past. And we're now 10 years later, 15 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later. If you continue to talk about it over and over and over again, and you have some anger or some bitterness or some tears or vengeance for them, you've not been healed and delivered. When you can see those people from the Lord's perspective, that they've been hurt, you give them to Jesus, say, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Then you're healed. And then you're more beautiful for going through that brokenness. I thought about this over the weekend, that so many people that want to avoid be hurting. They don't want to go through where a person speaks to them harshly or talks down to them. They want to avoid them, and that makes sense. We understand that. But when you're a child, you don't have the option. If your father or mother or step-parent speaks harshly to you, they will say things that will hurt you, and then you will remember what they said over and over again, oftentimes in the very tone that they said. And those are demonic influenced words that are being spoken through a human. And when that happens, you listen to it. If someone texts you or writes you a note, a message, leaves a message for you, and it's harsh and it's mean and it's judgmental and it's not godly, not uplifting, I won't listen to it. I will not. If someone posts something, and I start to read the first couple words, I know where it's heading, I won't read it. Delete it, block that person, because it's the demonic spirits in them that want to get to you. And so I understand if you are having a father, you're having a mother that speaks to you in ways that hurt you over and over and over and over and over again, then it's not beneficial for you. All right, so there's a question I saw on YouTube. Do I do private deliverance? Yes, I do. I do personal sessions every week for people, and you can, if you desire and think that you need that, we can set something up. There is a charge for that. Again, that helps to pay for the ministry expenses that I have. Again, I travel and I speak, and I also do personal sessions in between, typically Monday through Friday. And but you can reach out to me or my assistant, Tina Kirkpatrick, and you can find out more information about that. Again, a lot of people just watch these videos, teachings on YouTube. It's free. You can get delivered that way. You know, it may take a few weeks, it may take a few months. It's up to how willing you are to be honest with your own hurts, your own wounds, and some of the things you've done. You'll probably need to repent for some of the sins that you've done. You have to repent for your pride and forgive people that have hurt you. But again, I do a personal session. It takes normally about an hour. We go through all those wounds that you've gone through. I write them down. I'll go back and have Jesus speak to you about each of the individuals that hurt you deeply, so you can get a word from him about why those people did what they did. They were hurt, they were wounded from somebody, and when we can see that and understand it, we can forgive them. Then we can command the demonic spirits to go. So we typically see a person's life significantly have some improvement after a session. Now, they may still have to go through several more months of getting more layers as they're more honest and more forgiveness that they can do, but at least it's a big breakthrough that they end up having. So, alrighty, that's pretty much it. So again, think about this way. You know, when you lift weights, okay, how to get a hold of Tina Kirkpatrick? Go ahead and Tina K at restoredtofreedom.com. You can also go out to my website, restoredtofreedom.com, and you can find the link there to Tina, and then we can get something set up. So, all right, but think about this. When you lift weights, again, I've lifted weights since I was like a junior in high school. Every week. Not been a week that I've gone where I've not lifted weights. I'm trying to think even when I go on vacation. You know, I work out, so. But when you're lifting weights, sometimes it hurts as you're lifting it, as you're going through 3 sets of 10 bicep curls or bench pressing or extensions or squats and things like that. It does, it hurts. But what happens is your muscles heal from that and you get stronger. Same thing with, say, running a marathon. Normally, you can't just go out and run 26.2 miles. I've run, I don't know, 5 or 6 marathons in my life. So I had to train for it. I had to go through where my muscles in my legs and my endurance in my lungs was built up over time. So there was purpose in that pain. There was an ultimate goal that I had, and I was able to achieve it. But had I not gone through the pain of the past, I would not have been able to complete what I wanted to do. The same thing happens in a person's life. If you're called to help people, we're all called to help people to pursue Christ, to be healed from their past wounds, you know, helping them, love on them. And so there's going to be pain that we're going to have to go through. And then that way we can walk in the same shoes as other people, and we can help them to forgive, help them to repent, and truly be healed and delivered from the demonic spirits that have tormented them. So think about, you know, when, you know, you become more beautiful for being broken, going through that, than had you not. You know, a lot of people, they don't want to go through any pain at all. Well, if you have gone through nothing in your life, you were fed with a silver spoon and you haven't gone through anything, then if you want to go through and start ministering to people, people want to know, what's your testimony? What have you gone through? What are your wounds? You're like, well, I didn't go through anything. Well, then how can you relate to me? You know, it's interesting, those who have tried to work with people, say in marriages, that have never gone through, say, a divorce, never gone through pain with their children, then how can they relate to those who are going through it? They really can't. It's hard. It's hard to minister at that level. You know, if you've never gone through, you know, a spouse that's betrayed you, that's thrown knives at you, glasses at you, yelled, screamed at you over and over and over for years, it's hard for you to relate to another person. You know, I can think about that. You know, I can't relate to certain things that I've never gone through. Um, you know, those who have been, say, satanic ritually abused. I've not gone through that. You know, I can try to help people get healed and delivered through forgiveness. That's my goal. But if I've never walked through that, you know, I have certain people in our ministry that have gone through that. So then I can refer them to them and say, listen, you know, so don't be mad and angry at God if you've gone through some things that aren't fun. You know, count it all joy, for God's going to use that for greatness when you're healed. So, all right, I'm going to let everybody go. So say